I think the main obstacle for people who are really serious in meditation is that they try too hard. There's too much expectations. It's something that we have to learn. All of us have to learn to let go. Desire is a cause of suffering. Even the desire to progress in meditation. But you cannot live without that desire. You cannot be liberated without the desire. It is the desire to end desires. So that desire is very important for you to start the journey. But while you're walking, don't expect. Just walk.
Let's call it the Nike rule. Just do it.
If the teacher that you depend on happens to be showing the wrong way, it's too bad, lor. That's your karma. What can we do? At Buddha's time, because it was not much brain work, they could do a lot of reflection even when they are going about their daily activities, because it's all labor intensive. For lay people, for now, a reflection might be a bit of a problem, especially during work, because it's brain intensive. Your mind is already occupied with your work. You got no time to reflect. Maybe you got time to reflect only when you're driving and got caught in a traffic jam.
Well, I associated the wise because I talked to you, so there's at least one. But all these people here, they're looking at me, so they associated the fool. So it's the wise got cancelled out. Friends, welcome to episode 37 of Vibe with Venerables. 1 hour of live Dharma and dialogue where you get to talk directly to a respected Venerable. I'm Ming, co-founder of Buddhism-dot-net and your host. Our teacher today is the highly respected Malaysian Buddhist master, Bhante Aggacitta. He is the founder of the Sansara Raka Buddhist Sanctuary, the first Theravada monk training center in Malaysia. He is a very popular teacher and practically a walking library of the Suttas. We are very excited to have him. So our topic today is meditations for lay Buddhists, then and now. So previously we assigned a video for you to watch where Bhante explored what meditations the Buddha taught lay people versus what he taught to monastics. Today we'll take a deep dive into this topic. And for those of you who haven't watched the video, don't worry, Bhante will provide a summary today and then you can watch the video again later. So don't have to feel bad. So Bhante will speak for roughly 30 minutes and then answer your questions live. As a reminder, this session will be recorded and then uploaded onto YouTube later. And if you're comfortable doing so, we'd like to invite you to turn your camera on so that Bhante can see your lovely faces on his screen. With that, dear Bhante, can we invite you to start us off with a blessing?
Yeah, sure. People have always thought that monks can bestow blessings. And there's a quick fix. But there's another way. Let's see what the Buddha says. This is from the Mangala Sutta. Many devas and humans too pondered over what blessings are, wanting safety and well-being. Say, what is the foremost blessing? Not associating with fools, associating with the wise, honoring the honorable. This becomes a foremost blessing. Okay, over to you.
Sadhu. Thank you, dear Bhante. So yeah, as Bhante has said, I was hoping he would bless us, but he's going to have us bless ourselves. So let's activate our own blessing. Don't associate with fools and associate with wise. So don't hang out with me, hang out with him. That's the instruction.
Okay, so now you have already seen, if you came early, you would have already watched the summary that Ming prepared. But now I will go over again, but I will not arrange it in the same order as he did. And here also, you will be given the Sutta references. Right, so the 6 recollections, they were mentioned actually in 2 suttas by the Buddha to lay people directly. The first one, as was said earlier, was given to Mahanama, his cousin, who had already attained the fruit, who had attained a level of enlightenment, awakening. And so the second was also given to Mahanama, but this time he was not asking for personal instructions for him, but asking for instructions for his friends, 500 of them who came to see the Buddha, because they heard that the Buddha was going off after the Vasa, so they wanted to get some last-minute instructions from the Buddha. And so the Buddha said the same thing to all his friends, and not specifically for people who have attained, and those people who have not yet attained can also practice the 6 recollections. However, you don't start off practicing the 6 recollections from scratch. You need to have some sort of basis for you to recollect your virtue. And so that's why in that sutta, it is said that you should first of all cultivate the 5 spiritual faculties. This was also covered earlier in the summary that was prepared by Meng and his team. Then the next thing was loving kindness for all beings. You can see here a couple of references. Loving kindness for all beings. There are several suttas for that, and I didn't give the reference in my previous talk. And so now, if you want to really go and check out what I said, then you go to these places. AN 9.18 is about the 9-factored uposatha. The uposatha are the 8 precepts that you observe on uposatha days. An extra one is to radiate mettā to all beings in all directions. Then the Itivuttaka, or the one in the Khuddaka Nikaya, that is about how mettā surpasses all worldly merits that can lead to rebirth. And the last one, SN 20.4, is about the pots of food. Yeah, where it's shown that even though you offer or you prepare 100 pots of food in the morning to offer to people, to monks, even that cannot surpass the returns, the meritorious returns of mettā that is genuinely radiated to all beings unconditionally. Third one is the 5 reflections, which I mentioned actually last in my talk because I forgot about it, but it's also pretty important. This one is these 5 reflections about old age, health, longevity, life, attachment to cherish things that you cherish or people that you cherish, and finally, reflection on the law of karma, that you are the owner of your own karma. These 5 reflections are actually meant for everyone, not only for monks or nuns, for anyone, whether you are female or male, whether you are a layperson or a renunciant. Number 4. These are the 4 Satipaṭṭhānas. Yeah, so here there are a couple of references here which show that lay people have learned Satipaṭṭhāna from someone, not stated exactly from whom, and that is, I think in the 7, in MN 51, there was one lay person who was listening to the Buddha talking about the 4 Satipaṭṭhānas to one wanderer, and then he interrupted and said that he also practices the Satipaṭṭhāna, but we don't know where he learned it from. In fact, there's no evidence in the suttas to show that the Buddha directly taught the 4 Satipaṭṭhānas to lay people. So the 4 Satipaṭṭhānas, although the Buddha did not specifically teach the 4 Satipaṭṭhānas to lay people, no evidence at all, no explicit evidence in the suttas. He might be teaching to the bhikkhus, and then there might be some lay people sitting behind and listening. That's possible. There's no explicit evidence to show that in the suttas. And very strangely, he encouraged his monks to teach the 4 Satipaṭṭhānas to those people who were close to them, their friends, their colleagues, their kinsmen, their relatives, those whom they think would listen to them. So this is something that he also encouraged the monks to teach to lay people, although he himself did not do it. The origin and end of suffering was given to a particular headman who came to see the Buddha. He asked specifically about the origin and ending of suffering, and the Buddha answered him. And this itself is a very potent teaching that is very applicable to everyone, because what Bhadraka, the headman, was asking was basically about mind-made suffering, mind-rooted suffering, rather than about suffering, samsaric suffering of getting out of samsara. And of course, all of us face mental suffering every day, and we will come to that more afterwards. The Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths is the default teaching that the Buddha gave to non-renunciants when he gives a talk called the progressive talk or the gradual talk, where he will start off with dana, with giving, generosity, and then it goes on to sila and heaven, and then he talks about the degradation of all the essential pleasures. He talks about the advantages of renunciation. And then when he finds that the minds of the lay people as well as the devas who are listening are already freed from the hindrances and they are ready for it, then he will teach the Four Noble Truths. And that's when people attain the Dhamma eye. That is the Dhamma Chakku, which is you could say is a term for some sort of awakening. Most of the time, it refers to the attainment of stream entry, but it could also mean higher stages of attainment. During the Buddha's time, there were no retreat centers, and so people got awakened not because they did any retreats. As far as I'm aware, in all the suttas and in the Vinaya, non-renunciants who got enlightened did so while listening to one single Dhamma talk, and usually by the Buddha himself, mostly by the Buddha himself, following this template of starting with dana, going to sila, heaven, and then finally ending with the Four Noble Truths. So this is also a default teaching for lay people. So you see that I highlighted number 4 and number 6 because not only in number 6, the Four Noble Truths, not only did the Buddha, he himself, not only did the Buddha himself teach the Four Noble Truths to lay people at the end of the progressive talk, Anupobhikatha, but he also encouraged the monks, just like he encouraged the monks to teach lay people the four Satipaṭṭhānas. He also encouraged the monks to teach their friends, their colleagues, their kinsmen, whom they think would listen to them, to establish them in the Four Noble Truths as well. So these are the two that are singled out by the Buddha by the Buddha encouraging the monks to teach lay people. Okay, so now we go on into a deep dive to understand the rationale. Why did the Buddha teach these specific meditations to lay people and not the other meditations? There are so many other meditations that he taught the monks. You will notice that one of the most important or significant things that you can notice is that all of these 6 can be practiced in any posture, anywhere, anytime. Particularly the 6 recollections. This was very explicit. The Buddha said that you can practice this while you're walking, while you're sitting, while you're standing, while you're moving around, while you're surrounded by children in your house. So you got no excuse. It's something that you can practice. Okay, but that was during the Buddha's time. You can compare this to the steps for jhana practice. You notice that in all these 6 meditations meant for lay people during the Buddha's time, nothing was mentioned about attaining the jhanas. Nothing was mentioned about it. Although in the 6 recollections, in the 2 suttas, the 2 Mahanama suttas, if you read the text completely, you will see that the Buddha talks about how by recollecting the virtues of the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, or your own generosity, and that of your own virtue, or recollecting the virtues of the devas, can lead to samadhi. Yeah, he talks about how they will lead to rapture, happiness, comfort, and finally to Samadhi. But he didn't say anything about jhana. Nothing about jhana. For jhana practice, this is very specific. This is called the gradual training. In this sutta, Kanaka Moggallana Sutta, MN 107, one accountant by the name of Ganaka Moggallana approached the Buddha and specifically asked him whether he has any default method of teaching his disciples. Just like he, as a professional, as an accountant, has his own default way of training his interns on how to become an accountant. You have gradual steps. You have to count one times one, 1 times 2, 1 times 3, like we did in the old days. But nowadays, I don't think you do that anymore. So the Buddha specifically gave this structured gradual training meant for monastics. And look at this. Look at how complicated they are and how long drawn the process is, ending in the attainment of the jhanas. First thing is you have to become a monk. Then secondly, you have to be restrained according to the Patimokkha, the 227 rules. Basically, the 227 rules plus the other minor rules, hundreds and hundreds of them. The third is restraint of the sense faculties. So these are all sequential, After you become a monk, the first thing you need to do is to learn up the Vinaya and then try to restrain yourself according to the Patimokkha, which is the basic monastic code of conduct, plus all the other minor rules. And after that, once you're restrained in that morality aspect, then you go one step further. You will ask the monk to try to be restrained in the sense faculties. Now, don't get caught up in what you see, hear, smell, taste, or even think with your mind. Don't proliferate. Restrain your sense faculties, the 6 senses. And then after that, he will ask the monk to practice moderation in eating. Yeah, you eat only for health, for you to survive, so that you can continue to practice spiritually, not for fun, not for beauty, and so forth. And that also requires restraint. Without restraint, how can you practice moderation in eating? And then when you practice moderation in eating, then you practice wakefulness. Because if you eat too much, after your meal, you're so drowsy, you can't meditate. Then if you eat too little, then towards the end of the day, you run out of steam and you also cannot meditate. So this is practicing wakefulness. Because when you take just enough food for yourself, then you can be wakeful throughout the day. And that wakefulness also requires the monk to sleep only 4 hours a day. You walk and sit and meditate the whole day, and then you take a rest only for 4 hours at night, from 10 to 2 a.m. in the middle watch of the night. So after you have mastered all that, from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then only you practice mindfulness and clear awareness. And only when you have mastered that, you go on to the next step, which is to look for a secluded place. Yeah, you look for a secluded place, which is go to the cave, go to the forest, go to the foot of a tree, go to an empty dwelling. And after that, that's number 8. Then you abandon the 5 hindrances. Now here, in this case, the Buddha says, once you've gone to seclusion, then you sit down cross-legged with your back straight, establishment, mindfulness in front of you, and then you try to abandon the 5 hindrances, which are the weakness of wisdom. And only after that, then you go on to number 9, which is attaining the jhanas. You develop the 4 jhanas. All right, so for this sequence of practice, which is a default template for monastics, the Buddha also has modifications depending on the inclination and spiritual maturity of the monk or the renunciant, right? So this one is a general or a general template, but he will modify according to the needs of his monks. So you can compare this to a layperson's life. How many of these can you fulfill in your daily life as a layperson? No wonder the Buddha never asked the lay people to practice the jhanas. All right, let's look at the other aspects of these 6 types of meditation that the Buddha prescribed for lay people in terms of posture, place, in terms of their mode, whether the mode is one of reflection or whether it's one of observation. You can see, as I said earlier, all of these 6 can be practiced anywhere, anytime. Yeah, all of these can be practiced anywhere, anytime. The first one is very explicit. Loving kindness, you can practice anywhere, anytime too. 5 reflections, also you can practice anywhere, anytime. 4 Satipaṭṭhānas. Now, when I talk about the 4 Satipaṭṭhānas, I'm not talking about the one that is found in Digha Nikaya, the long discourses of the Buddha, or the one found in the Majjhima Nikaya, the middle length discourses of the Buddha. Because I believe that these composites from various suttas, I'm talking about the very basic 4 Satipaṭṭhānas that can be found in the Satipaṭṭhāna Samyutta, connected discourses, the discourses connected with the 4 Satipaṭṭhānas. And then finally, origin and ending of suffering also can be, you notice you suffer every time, you are disappointed, frustrated, angry, impatient. Look at it. What's the origin of this suffering? It's because of attachment to ideas, expectations, and so forth. And then finally, the Four Noble Truths. And looking at the mode, let's look at this, reflect. The first 3 are on reflection. You use reflection initially for loving kindness, but later when you're proficient, you don't need to reflect. You just radiate the loving kindness. And then the last 3, the 4 Satipaṭṭhānas, origin and ending of suffering, and the Four Noble Truths, they are more of observation. Okay, so we can see this. And now let's look at the condition or circumstances of lay people in the past and now. During the Buddha's time, life was pretty hard. Everything was manual, very labor-intensive, and also time-consuming. And also no conveniences like nowadays. You can't travel around in a bullet train. If you don't have any mobile services, you can't communicate through phone or WhatsApp. And you can't even, you want to cook rice as well, you don't just switch on the rice cooker. You have to go and gather wood and make a fire to cook the rice. And now, on the other hand, instead of labor intensive, it's brain intensive. And also, it's time consuming. Even though it's brain intensive, even though things are more convenient, it doesn't make life easier. It's so time consuming. And even time consuming in the sense of traveling. Even though you don't travel in a bullock cart, you travel in the car, you get caught in the traffic jam. And you take a long time to commute from work from home to work and back. And even though there are a lot of conveniences, mine is now very convenient because you work from 8 to 5 mostly. Of course, there are people who work overtime. Then you can have leave, you can take leave, then you can go on retreats. During the Buddha's time, no time for retreat. But now you got time for retreat. Okay, so let's look at the lay meditations for then and now. Okay, so basically there are 2 modes of it. One is to reflection, one is to observation. Let's look at the Buddha's time. The Buddha's time, because it was not much brain work, they could do a lot of reflection even when they are going about their daily activities, because it's all labor intensive, though not so much brain work. So the mind is free to reflect and also observe. You can reflect and they can also observe. Okay, for lay people, for now, a reflection might be a bit of a problem, especially during work, because it's brain intensive. Your mind is already occupied with your work. You got no time to reflect. Maybe you got time to reflect only when you're driving and got caught in a traffic jam. Okay, that's one good time for you to reflect. And then observation, you can observe anytime, observe especially suffering and its cause. And also you can observe the 4 Satipaṭṭhānas, which we will talk about next on our next session. So appropriate meditation for lay followers nowadays. Loving kindness also can be done anywhere, anytime. And it's reflective, right? And then the next one, the 4 Satipaṭṭhānas. The 4 Satipaṭṭhānas also can be practiced anywhere, anytime, but it is more of observation, and which you can do even though you have a lot of brain work. And the third one is origin and ending of suffering. Yeah, this one can be done anywhere, anytime. And also it's about observation. Every time you suffer, then ask yourself why. You can observe and you can see the cause is attachment, desire to ideas, to expectations, to hopes, to beliefs, to views. And the last one is mindfulness of breathing. This was never prescribed for lay people because by nature of their circumstances at that time. And in all the Anapanasati suttas, the Buddha gave instructions for the practice of mindfulness of breathing. It always starts with looking for a quiet and secluded place, go to the cave, go under the foot of a tree, go to an empty place, empty building, sit cross-legged with the back straight, establishing mindfulness in front of you. But no instructions on closing your eyes. But you need to sit to practice mindfulness of breathing. And this is also just observing your breath. All right. So now seems to be a very common practice among lay people nowadays because they have more conveniences and they have more time to go on leave. All right. And they are not so labor intensive. That's why it's also it is an appropriate meditation for lay people if you have got time to sit down quietly to watch your breath. But it's not so useful in the sense that you cannot practice it throughout the day as often as you could the others. Okay, I will end the talk here. I think I've gone a bit off time, 6 minutes past. Okay, so Meng, over to you.
So friends, if you have any questions for Bhante or any reflections you want to share, you can use the hand raising function on Zoom, and then I will invite you to unmute yourself. Or if you prefer, Zoom has a Q&A function. If you look at the bottom, if you can't find it, it's under the three dots with more, and go to Q&A, and you can type your question onto the board if you like. Also, you can upvote questions. So if you see a question on the board that you like, you can just vote for it, and then we will choose the most voted questions. And of course, we'll give priority to in-person questions from raised hands. So Bhante, I have a question from, this is from the YouTube. One of the YouTube viewers sent us this question through a comment. And the question is this. This person says, Bhante mentioned that in the Suttas, the Buddha never taught the four Satipaṭṭhānas to lay people. But according to the Suttas and the commentary, isn't the Satipaṭṭhāna Sutta first preached to lay people of Kuru County?
That's what the commentary say.
Yes.
The commentary say that it was preached to the lay people, and it was a long story about how mindful they are and so forth. But there's no evidence in the sutta to prove this. In fact, in that sutta, which is the Satipaṭṭhāna Sutta, the long Satipaṭṭhāna Sutta in the Digha Nikaya, long discourses to the Buddha, and in the Majjhima Nikaya, the middle length discourses to the Buddha, it started off by saying that the Buddha was staying among the Kurus in the town called Kamasadhamma. And then he addressed the bhikkhus. He didn't address the lay people. As I said, it's possible that there could be lay people sitting at the back, listening. But there's no explicit evidence in the suttas where the Buddha preached the Satipaṭṭhānas to any lay person. Although, as I said just now, there were cases of lay people who professed that they were also practicing the four Satipaṭṭhānas, but we don't know from whom they learned it. Maybe from the Buddha, maybe from the monks. We have no idea.
So, in other words, this the claim that this was taught to lay people was in the commentaries, but not in the sutta itself.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the commentaries are written much later. So all of us need to be a little bit careful about that because the suttas are older, right?
I'm not someone who totally rejects the commentary. I find that sometimes the commentaries give very, very good explanations of things that we wouldn't understand because Pali is a dead language. Yeah, yes. And it's so long ago. So sometimes it's very useful. But then we have to really investigate and scrutinize what they say. As you said, the Sutta is a basis of the Buddha's teaching, and we always have to try to compare to the Suttas.
Yes, thank you. Let's go to a question on the Q&A board. Bhante, the question here is, how did you learn or teach yourself not to suffer?
Just by observation. Just by observation. I just got a cue. I got a cue by looking at the Four Noble Truths. Suffering is caused by desire. And I look at myself, I suffer so much disappointment, and so much impatience, so much frustration. And whenever all these sufferings happen to me, I always ask myself, why? And I found that invariably, it points to attachment and desire for pleasures of the senses and not getting them, attachment to views, expectations, opinions, beliefs. That is the most dangerous one, I think, that all of us face.
But Bhante, knowing itself is just a beginning, right? Because for me, I know that my attachment to chocolate is making me fat, right? But just knowing doesn't mean I can stop, right? So for you, was it like gradual? Did it take time? Or
of course,
was it for
took
you
time. No, because actually it just didn't take me very long, because somebody introduced me to the way of Zen when I was in the third year in university. And then during that last part of the third year, I was already starting to investigate my mind. And by the end of the third year, I already lost interest in studying, chasing for that degree, because it causes so much suffering. That itself is the desire to get that degree is a cause for suffering itself.
Yes.
And eventually, not only that, other small things also, I keep on watching myself. Every time I suffer, even like I got up late. I'm going to the university. I have to take my motorbike. I'm going to open the gate. But the latch is full of ants. All right. And I was trying to practice the 5 precepts at that time. That's right. There was an impatience. I was the impatient. What's the cause of the impatience? Desire. You want to go to uni in time for your lecture. All right. And you want to do it fast and kill those ants. So I washed myself. I stopped. I blew the ants away. And then only I slowly opened.
Okay, that's good.
Observation, observation and sense restraint.
Awesome. Okay, Ryan said he's figured it out. Okay, Ryan, can you try unmuting yourself again?
Okay, thank you. Sadhu, Bhante. Appreciate the talk. How can a practitioner determine, which one of these subjects to be focusing on at a given time, and how long to meditate, kind of like how to structure one's practice? Because I find that I've pushed myself too far at times, and that leads to burnout. So what would you say in terms of structuring practice? And
what sort of practice are you doing? What sort of practice are you doing?
Right now, a mixture of multiples of these, like mindfulness of breathing, Satipaṭṭhānas, Brahma Viharas, trying to get some insight practice into impermanence and not self, and the origin of suffering. So a lot of these subjects.
Maybe you're trying to get something out of that. You just do. You don't try to get anything. You just observe, or you just do your thing without any expectations. Then the result will come of itself. I think the main obstacle for people who are really serious in meditation is that they try too hard. There's too much expectations. It's something that we have to learn. All of us have to learn to let go. Desire is a cause of suffering, even the desire to progress in meditation. But you cannot live without that desire. You cannot be liberated without the desire. It is the desire to end desires. So that desire is very important for you to start the journey. But while you're walking, don't expect. Just walk. Okay?
Okay.
So Bhante, just maintain the desire to do the practice. That's the only desire to keep during the practice. Is that correct?
Correct. Keep on doing it. Keep on doing it. Don't expect the result to come anytime soon.
Okay, let's call it a Nike rule. Just do it. Okay, Micah, please unmute yourself.
Okay, my question is, how do you tell the difference between the jhanas and Samadhi and Nirvana?
If you want to know the difference between the jhana and samadhi, you have to watch my video. I did a video on that in my YouTube channel. It's called Pre and Inter-jhanic States of Samadhi. Yeah, you look for that in my YouTube video.
Yeah,
All right,
it's a
thank
big topic, and you address it very well, Bhante. I watched the video multiple times. So yeah,
It's a complicated thing. I cannot answer in a simple
that's right.
few minutes.
So fortunately, Bhante he's not just an encyclopedia of knowledge. He has encyclopedia of knowledge. So we can watch his video.
Okay,
Thank you, Michael. Doris, please unmute yourself.
I'm a very lay person, just beginning to start mindfulness breathing. I get acquaintance of this mindfulness breathing is during my workplace. So I've been encountering during just practicing the monitoring of breathing, mainly to address my migraine. It has been like 10 over years, twice per month episode. So I try to use mindfulness breathing to do without medication. And sometimes I could, and it's like 1 out of 50 times I can get it relief. So just yesterday, I tried mindfulness breathing for the attack again. My question is, I tried to reset twice yesterday, and at a sitting position, eyes closed. It's fine because I can't get myself settled. Then I will just reset and then restart again, back to back consecutively. And I find that sitting position I can't hold it longer. So what happened is the third time I reset, I lie down, and it's able to kind of slowly begin to able to feel the relaxation. The breathing is more in rhythmic. I mean, it's more equal, not so unsettled. So my question is, if I encounter unsettlement, do I just give up, or I just continue to reset and reset until I get it? As in, I can get the relief of my migraine. And in fact, I try not to do it only during my migraine attack. I try to practice it regularly, but due to disciplinary issue, I can't manage to do it daily. So at least when I tried, when my episode migraine came, I would try to make use of mindfulness breathing instead of going to the medication. So I just wonder, should I persist if I have reset myself like 2 or 3 times, or I should just give it up, don't do anymore?
Thank you, Doris.
Thank you.
As I said earlier, desire for results, expectations is one of the greatest obstacles in meditation. You just do it. Don't worry. Sometimes your migraine might be relieved. Sometimes it might not be. There's so many other factors involved besides just breathing, So we just do it. And if it doesn't, you don't feel more relief, there could be other problems beyond your control. So we just have to accept it, but keep on doing. It's a good idea to keep on practicing regularly instead of waiting when you get the migraine and just meditate, because it will not work that way. All right.
Whenever I get the migraine episode, I will stay on the course for more persistently than the discipline to do it regularly when there is no it's something like there's an objective, then I will reignite the practice.
So there's a problem. You see, your objective is to overcome that migraine, correct? And so when you can't overcome it using that tool, you feel disappointed, extra suffering. You just do it. I mean, there are many other ways. I think there are many other ways of natural ways of relieving yourself of migraine. You try this one way. If it doesn't work, sometimes it works, sometimes it may not work. All right. So if you're willing to accept it that way, then stick with it. If not, you can explore other alternatives. Okay.
Thank you, Doris. Okay, Chi Chang, please unmute yourself.
Hello, Bhante.
Hi.
You mentioned that, on your path, you discovered that your pursuit of your degree was causing you suffering. And then you realized that, that was not a thing for you to do. And that you then gave up your degree to pursue this spiritual callings. So in your case, you definitely had a higher goal in mind, which is very good. My question is, for those of us who are, say, guiding youths in the lay life, where they have to earn a living. So we're trying to train them and to earn a living, you have to learn skills. So we're trying to train them to, have the perseverance and the diligence to learn these new skills, and they find it very hard. And let's face it, work is not fun for many people, where we have to work to earn a living. So what if these people, my question is, let's say they watch your video, then they say, look, these things are what is causing me suffering. And, all this hard work is suffering, so I don't want to do it anymore. See, Bhante says, like achieving the degree was suffering. What advice would you suggest, or what can I use to counter this potential pushback, if you like, from, say, young people who find the, a bit tough to be disciplined and pursue these things? That's the question.
Suffering is the best teacher. If you haven't suffered enough, then as in Chinese, we say, 唔在思. Yeah, because you have not gone through the suffering, you enjoy life, right?
Okay.
So that's why the commentaries say, lay people, when they are happy, they don't come to the temple. Only when they have problems, then they'll come to the temple to seek for advice and for counseling. People come to the meditation center not because they want to get out of samsara. Many times it's because they've got some personal problem that they cannot solve, and they come to the meditation center after all other means have failed. Last resort. But having said that, although the ultimate aim of Buddhist practice is to get out of samsara, to be free from suffering, but being a layperson itself is suffering because you have to earn a living, right? You have to earn a living, you have work conditions, you have to please your boss, you have to please your clients, and then you have subordinates and colleagues who don't live up to your expectations. These are all suffering. But you have to accept it because you're a layperson. So how can you minimize it? That's an important thing. You have to learn how to minimize that. But first of all, trying to declutter your mind. That's number one. That's why I teach open mindfulness. It is something which you very, very useful tool for you to declutter your mind quickly. And then when you declutter your mind becomes composed. Composed means it's not easily distracted by your biases, your emotions, and things like that. It becomes composed. And when the mind is composed, then it begins to see things according to reality. You can see all these factors that you have to face in your daily life as a layperson, as a family man, with responsibilities, as somebody who is working. So you will be able to adjust yourself when the mind has been decluttered. All right. So even though the ultimate goal of samsaric liberation may be very far away, maybe a few more lifetimes away, don't worry. Just keep on walking. Right. First of all, settle your suffering here and now. Worry about the samsaric suffering later. Cut down on cut down on your desires, unnecessary desires. You cannot survive without desire, but you have to cut down on unnecessary desire. And you can only decide what is necessary and what is unnecessary, and when you can restrain yourself when your mind is composed. So the first thing you need to do is declutter your mind, compose yourself, then the wisdom will come. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Bhante, we still have many more questions, but we don't have time for one or two more. So maybe I'll tell you what, I'll read one question from the Q&A board, and then we take one last live question. So the Q&A board, there's one question. I'll just ask the short version of it. The short version is, Bhante, you give a list of the for practicing jhana, and the second last item on the list is abandoning the hindrances. So that comes just before the samadhi. So the question is it possible to do that without the prior 7 steps, including renunciation and moderation, eating, and so on?
Okay. Like I said,
Yeah.
lay life nowadays is very different from lay life during the Buddha's time. In lay life during the Buddha's time, you are totally immersed in that, trying to survive and trying to earn a livelihood. But now it's different. You have work time and you have family time, you have got meditation time, you can compartmentalize your time. So during that time that you're free, now you don't have to go to the forest, you don't have to go to the cave, you go to your aircon room, right? Shut all the windows, shut all the doors,
Yes,
and
this
switch on the
very room,
aircon.
by the way. Yes.
And you have really got seclusion.
Yes.
Right. So at that moment, when you are in that room, you have fulfilled all these factors, You are not breaking your precepts, you are practicing self-restraint, all the things are there. So
Okay.
it's possible. But again, you have to ask
Hey,
yourself.
nah.
You have to ask yourself. Even though you can attain jhana after many sessions, all right, and you
Yes.
attain it once or twice in during that session,
Yes.
how can you maintain it in your daily life?
Mm.
The moment you get up out of the room, you have your children, your wife, all your responsibility to all flood your mind, what happened to your jhana? It's all gone.
Yes.
That's why the Buddha never taught jhana to the lay people. He knew it's useless. He was wasting his time.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we have a last question. Sorry, it's so many questions. We will take one more. Last question. Fanny, you have the last question. Please unmute yourself.
Secure Bhante. I want to ask one question about, because Ayasma Aggacitta is a very learned monk. So I want to ask, how much is much like, lately I was get involved in practicing the lineage that didn't study at all. So in fact, they said that if you study, that is a hindrance for the mind. So what you have to do is just get back to your heart, like your sense inside of you. So I would like to ask your opinion, Bhante. How should I cope with this? Is it like I have to stop learning? And what is the effect of the Dharma learning compared to other kinds of readings? Thank you, Bhante.
Okay, yeah. One of the factors for becoming a stream enterer is to associate with the wise. So during the Buddha's time, there were no books. Everything was transmitted orally. So you have to depend on the teacher. And whenever the monks went to a new place, they will have a gathering of people. And different monks have got different interpretations of the suttas, and they teach differently. And that's why we have so many Buddhist schools and traditions now. And if you are a layperson and you don't have the time or even the propensity to study the suttas, what can you do but depend on the teacher? All right. Now, there are many teachers many teachers around. Some of them are very good speakers. Some of them are very good orators. They are very charismatic. But not all of them teach the right Dharma. So, because you are a layperson and you are not knowledgeable enough, you don't have enough experience, not enough knowledge in the suttas, then you have to depend on the teacher. If the teacher that you depend on happens to be showing the wrong way, it's too bad, that's your karma. What can we do? So if you want to be independent of teachers, then you have to study. But studying alone by itself also will not be enough. You still have to practice. All right. So you can depend on someone whom you trust to do your practice. All right. And then you learn the suttas yourself. And then you try to tally and see whether the practice will tally with the suttas. I think for lay people, that would be the best way.
Thank you, Fanny. Okay, unfortunately, that's all the time we have. Bhante, can we invite you to close with a blessing?
Okay, so now the blessing is for you to activate yourself. Residing in a suitable place, having done merit in the past, inclining oneself properly. This becomes a foremost blessing. Being respectful and humble, contented and grateful also. Timely hearing of the Dhamma. This becomes a foremost blessing. Okay, I think this is the checklist for you actually. How many of you did you activate today?
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Well, I associated the wise because I talked to you, so there's at least one. But all these people here, they're looking at me, so they associated the fool. So it's the wise got cancelled out. So thank you so much, dear Bhante. My friends, let's all bow to our teacher. So we're very lucky. Bhante will be here again next week, so we have at least one more week of him. Yay! And as a reminder, friends, this recording will be uploaded and onto the Buddhism-dot-net YouTube channel. So like and subscribe. If you like to show your appreciation and gratitude to our teacher, Bhante Aggacitta, you may, if you want to, make a donation directly to Sasana Rakha Buddhist Sanctuary. We'll be sharing the link by chat and by email. And I have a few announcements to make before we close. First, there will be homework. Yes. There'll be 9 minutes worth of Bhante's video that Bhante would like to show you before next week's class. So we'll share that by email. Second, we have an after Vibe session next week. So at the end of Bhante's class next week. So this is where we gather for peer sharing and reflection and Dharma exploration. So Bhante will not be there unless he decides to surprise us, which is not impossible. Instead, this will be facilitated by our very own Angela and her team. So registration is required. Link will be sent by chat and by email. In May, we will be celebrating Vesak with not 1 but 5 Buddhist masters. So registration is already open. Yeah, don't be shy to register. We will be again sharing by link, the link by chat and by email. Next week, Bhante will return to show us how all 4 establishments of mindfulness, all 4, can be developed through the simple practice of open mindfulness. And don't miss that. With that, my friends, thank you all for coming.